in. So solid pick for the Hokori side, but now swinging things back over to Lava. Bit of a decision to make on their part, and this is where they slightly differ from Thunder Predator that we saw the last time around, because both of their supports equally sort of adept on the IO. We see them go for the Bane here, though, so it looks like it will be another position 4 version of that hero, but that was something that they could have mixed up. They could have put MJZ on that IO instead, but they'll take the Bane. No longer the threat of the Silencer, and they'll get the Templar Assassin as well, so position 1 TA really has to be the call here with the Storm already picked up, while Hokori respond with the Lesh.
And it's an interesting opening to go for. Like you say, when the Disruptor is picked up, you can go with this Bane pick because, of course, there's no value on it in those early bans, so it's going to be through. And without the Silencer threat, there really is no reason not to. The TA is interesting. We do see this TA paired up with or rather versus the Tide. I think a few times already in the tournament, you're just playing on one of the weaker aspects of that hero. Unfortunately, you do have that little bit of range in lane, so if you do get clipped by that anchor smash, the meld really doesn't hurt as much as some of the other heroes, but at the same time, you also need to walk at your opponents if you want to actually get any of these plays made, and that's where I think this TA is going to be very good at defending her early towers versus both the Tide and the Lesh, where you're going to be able to know when they finally step foot in your side of the woods, and then you can either rotate out, you go to the mid lane, you put pressure on other towers, and you're comfortable playing in that type of field. I do, however, like that this Lesh is going to now, again, fasten the pace that Hokori are going to try to put down. It's very simple. It's a big reason why we see this Lesh ban down in a lot of cases where you put the Tide in front of the Lesh and then the Lesh takes the buildings and then Lava Cry because they don't typically have enough damage to be actually able to take out a lot of these heroes. And that's where I think, and maybe their offlaner here, of course, see the LC taken out, that would have been perfect for Lava BestPC, but they need a little bit more damage. I can only imagine that Hokori probably going to ban out both LC and Mars. I think that's probably where this draft is going, because again, not seeing the Mars picked or banned all the way till this last phase is a little bit funky to see, but definitely can see why. But at the same time, I think now Hokori, they need a little bit of burst. They, with the Tideweaver Disruptor, they've got that slow damage. It's not bad damage, but it's not going to come instantly. And we've already seen lineups that don't immediately begin and finish their kills versus the IO struggle to finish them off. And I think that's a situation that Hokori really want to avoid. They never want to let these heroes out because once they are, we've already seen the first phase storm. I mean, once they're free, they're free. They're just going to be able to get in and out of these fights consistently, and that's something that the TA also excels at.
Oh, don't really want to let any of that happen. As we see that final ban, it is actually going to be the Underlord who made one appearance earlier on in this event, and to be honest, I'm glad it was the only one, because that Underlord in that instance did very, very little for the team picking it. But Hokori, concerned about that selection, would have given them, honestly, still a hero that can absorb a lot of damage, even if you don't always have contributions to make on the offensive end. But now you leave the Mars in the pool. Now you leave heroes like maybe the Sand King, things of that nature in the pool, or, okay, the Brewmaster, which you look at Hokori outside of the Static Storm, or maybe the Ravage for that matter, how can you consistently prevent this Brewmaster from getting off the split? And if you have to use one of those massive teamfight ults to prevent that, well, now the Storm Spirit and the TA can kind of maneuver a little bit more freely as well.
Now, what do they choose? Is it the Morphling? Is it a hero like Sven? What do they want versus the Brewmaster? And of course, Brew is a hero that we personally haven't seen all too much, but is getting a lot of love pretty much around the world because, of course, you put the Tide into the air, you put the big hero up, and then you kill everyone else. And it's also that same idea where once you get the fight started, Brew is fine in a lot of situations. And they go for the PL. Okay. Makes a little bit of sense here. Of course, it is that same realm where Kotaro definitely needs to be a little bit scared. If this game gets a little bit too far forward on, then suddenly you're not actually able to fight this PL, and TA definitely doesn't do well whenever heroes are just right on top of your face, sitting on top of you. There's not very much that you can do, and that's where you kind of have to play that kiting runaway style that really you can't do versus Disruptor because you always get glimpsed back into the fight. But at the same time, they pick PL into Brewmaster. You do have that purge, so there are going to be some pretty interesting team fights coming out from Lava BestPC, but that's also where, yet again, we're in another lineup where if Hokori get a little bit too much time, then I think this PL really has no other person to stand against. That's a very similar idea with the Terrorblade that we saw, where get a few too many items and suddenly you're a monster that no one can deal with. At the same time, Jamari is just going to be able to force down all of these objectives and create that space that I think that Terrorblade didn't even get to work with, even though he was almost able to win that game.
Yeah, that is the thing that's going to be very much Lava working against the clock. If the PL gets to that sort of big late game stage that we have seen in the past, their ability to just go directly up against it is not really fantastic unless they just isolate him in a situation where he can't summon any illusions whatsoever, which good luck trying to sort of walk your way into that exact scenario, right? So you want to try and play on a little bit of a timer here, but it looks like Hokori with their lineup can sort of equally play up in terms of tempo, right? The Lesh is going to want to take those objectives, and the Tidehunter is going to shut down a lot of the pushes from the Lava side. So do they let the PL get to that sort of critical mass? If they do, it's going to be incredibly difficult to stop it. But on the Hokori side of things, would very much like to see them not just sit back and wait for the PL to sort of lead them to a win here.
Yeah, and that's where how effectively Lava can ignore this tide is more or less
Looking
going to
good.
become the name of the game, because
The
if you
battle
can't,
is
then this game
complete.
is looking just
Told
a
you a
little
storm
bit
was
rough for
coming.
you. But there are some big timings that Lava can definitely play around. Of course, they hit all of their timings just that little bit sooner than the Hokori side. This PL really, ideally, isn't going to show up to a lot of these fights until he has both the Manta and the Diffusal Blade, which is where Leo Style has an insanely good Orchid game. And if he can kill, especially the Leshrac in the backlines in a lot of these fights, where you've got another game where the only save is really going to be coming from the Lava side. So if they can start the fight with their own initiation, then this is going to look like Hokori might be a little bit too slow in their response. At the same time, if they keep that structure to a lot of their pushes and they keep the game around those objectives, Lava, they're pretty good at killing Roche, but that's where Hokori, who are even better at killing towers, might force their opponents around the map. There's a lot of good counterplay. It's a very even draft.
Mm-hmm. Also, do want to point out one thing here, just so we get it out of the way. The PL's tagging very much confuses me. If I read it right, his name is supposed to be G Pride, which, as far as I'm aware, is an actual team name. So I don't know what's going on. We're just going to call him G Pride, because he sure as heck isn't alone. We just had Alone in the previous series, so I don't know. The name tag's a little bit weird, so just giving you the heads up on that one. If you're wondering why we're talking about a team, we're not. It's just the name of the player. So with that in mind, we move forward. Bit of a scuffle for the early bounty rune there, but it is, I was going to say, actually just going to be an even trade-off, but it's actually not. Kataro wasn't able to grab it. Vitaly just sort of snags it out from under him, so Hokori start with 3 of the 4. Vitaly not even really going to take any damage here. Kataro's not hitting him up. In fact, he's the one who's going to take the hit here, forced to use the meld to avoid some of that damage, but since he can't move, he's still stuck in the exact same situation, and actually, if El Misho can get the angle, maybe get some body blocks in here long enough for the Gush to come back out, yeah,
Ooh.
they should have first blood. This is not going to save you. They know exactly where you are with this meld. Shikuchi damage could be enough for it, as Kataro's going to try for the Fairy Fire, and it won't be enough. Big first kill for Hokori right at the start.
Yeah, that is rough stuff for Kataro. That's really unfortunate. And time again, we see usually Tides just immediately go for the anchor smash because opportunities like that don't really just show themselves. But also, Kataro, you want to get the meld level 1, but I think with the that's just really crazy. I understand he knew that he was already losing one of the runes, so he wanted to make that push to try and steal the bounty when they knows that there aren't any stuns on that bottom side, but at the same time, definitely throw away your advantage just a little bit here.
Yeah, that sets him back that little bit at the start of the landing stage. Meanwhile, up top, going to be an interesting duo here. Frank and Moose, aka Kim now. Nice little duo. You can push forward. You've always got that thunderclap. You can throw out the brew once he hits level 2, which he just does. And over on the other side of things, the PL certainly doesn't want to get involved early, doesn't even have the Phantom Rush for that sort of little poke play. And really the best Gardic is going to be able to do is throw out the Thunder Strikes, but Thunder Strikes against an IO lane is not going to be damage that actually sticks long term.
Nope, definitely not. The only issue is, of course, Frank can only Cinder Brew off of his Cinder Brew. You need to rely entirely on your kit to actually proc that ability, which is mildly unfortunate. Of course, we could see him go for an early Urn, and I think that's what he's got queued up right now, which makes a whole lot of sense because you don't have that ideal partner, unfortunately, in the IO. And unfortunately, the Ancients were also blocked, so Kim's going to have to spend a little bit of time there unblocking them so that way he can actually has somewhere to stack for his TA, which he's always going to make time to do because, of course, Frank wants his level 6 as soon as he can, and then you're probably going to see Gardic die a few times just to that because it is that strong of an ability, and there really isn't all that much counterplay versus it.
Bit of a pause coming out here for just a moment, but yeah, that is exactly the play. Kim will step out, stack up the camps, get something for your TA, or for some of these sort of non-ancient camps, maybe even the play for the Storm Spirit to just sort of rotate over, while Frank just bum rushes Primal Split. That is really the simplest plan for them to come together for right now. So meet up in lane, push the PL back, then Io just sort of leaves for a little bit, sets up elsewhere, and oh, now we've got a bit of a connection issue. It looked like it was just going to be a momentary pause, but G-Pride is out, and Jamari actually DC'd now as well. He's quickly back in, however, so don't have to worry about that too much, but with the Phantom Lancer still out, Hokori going to need a little bit of extra time.
The mystery
Yeah, and
deepens.
honestly, looking over at the mid lane, looks like everything is more or less pretty boring. I think Leo Style, unfortunately, hasn't been able to scout out that
Now
his
you're
small camp is
fish
actually blocked,
food.
and you could almost say it's a pretty cool play from Jamari, and taking that top water rune away from the storm just means that it's going to be an even longer amount of time before Leo Style actually checks for it. So by forcing the storm over towards that bottom side, it just means that he's not going to know about the small camp until, unfortunately, once he rotates for the bounty rune, almost undoubtedly, he's going to realize that he actually doesn't have anywhere to farm.
Yeah, and especially going to be concerning if he is making that play because he's been pushed out of the lane a little bit, right? It's not just going to be a matter of you're working on sort of lower HP and mana, but then you're not going to have that sort of bounce back mechanic from the camp when you were really, truly sort of banking on it being there. So we shall see. We do have G-Prod back in, so Phantom Lancer is in position, reconnected, and we'll get things back underway.
Yeah.
Looking now down towards the bottom lane here. After that first death, Kataro really has not had any other significant issues. You take a look at the last hit count, he is up there at the very top. So he has stabilized MJZ, doing just really normal Bane things to help protect that carry. And this is the issue. It was nice for Vitaly and Elmisho to find that aggression the first time around, get that sort of unexpected kill, but now they really don't have much more potential, at least not onto the TA. Maybe you can punish MJZ, but you have no real hard lockdown here to force a fight. It's just a gush into hoping that you can chunk somebody down, and that's not exactly reliable at this moment in time. So, the first kill was nice, but really at this point they're just here for the levels on the Tidehunter more than anything else.
Yeah, and it's very difficult because they did lose control, actually, of the Sentry battle, and of course, whenever that happens versus Weaver, you can't really Shikuchi for a lot of those last hits that otherwise you'd be helping Vitaly with, so it just means Kataro gets a little bit of that level advantage, and both of these heroes are efficiently trading, really, against a team that doesn't have the most efficient trades, especially versus Refraction, and there you take a look at the meld, and yeah, they actually got him. That's a lot of damage.
Not quite showing enough respect to that damage potential, yeah. So Kataro sets it up, MJZ knocks him down, ties it up at 1-1, and now this bottom lane gets, honestly, even more comfortable for that lava side. You see them even actually getting most of that pull off. I think one creep managed to pull away, but to try and get the equilibrium back under control now that they pushed forward for the kill. But Vitaly, he is back in the lane. He's got something to say about this, so he should be able to do something, but you see Kataro actually getting most of that opposing wave actually back over towards his own creeps.
Yep, and as long as he keeps his wave back, I mean, you just see it. Every single time they go for that trade, Vitaly gets hit up by the meld, and you can't really afford to do that because the damage is just coming out a little bit too fast, and this Ring of Health isn't really helping you. I think he bought that Ring of Protection as soon as he respawned and walked back to the lane, but it's still just not doing very much, unfortunately, for him. But we'll have to see how he gets back here.
Every time he tries to step forward, he's getting hit by the meld. Speaking of getting hit, though, Elmisho says, you know what? I can't make a play in the bottom lane, I'm going to make my way mid, and to be fair, Jamari does a lot of the heavy lifting, but your Weaver's still in there to help out. He snipes out Leo Styles' courier afterwards as well to add insult to injury, and that is a very well-timed play, especially considering, as we said, there weren't a lot of opportunities bought. You can either move into the jungle, try to stack, or rotate mid for the kill. He chooses the latter, and it works out pretty damn well, but now... Well, now Kim... He came in for just a moment, but the timing was kind of way off, and Leo Style... Yeah, he now realizes that that is blocked out. He is going to be able to take down that sentry, but so much time was sort of wasted with that one sentry blocking off 2 or 3 different spawns on that camp.
Oh, and looking at it, man, Jamari really pulled away in that mid lane. Holy cow, and I understand that, of course, didn't have that small camp for a very long time on the Storm Spirit, but it also just seems like maybe there were some shenanigans where he didn't get a water rune or he didn't get a bottle charge, because he is just so far behind the Leshrac, and bottom lane also gets killed because the Weaver has more or less abandoned you, and they are doing the right play, I think, playing up on Leo style like this. He's being forced to jungle the large and medium camp for his level 6, and they're just not letting it happen, but at the same time, man, this Storm is just not having a game right now.
He really has been sort of shoved away at this point, whereas Jamari is, as you said, really just kind of taking over, taking control, now looking for early damage onto the tier 1 with what remained of his edict, but they actually want to go in for the kill instead. If they hit that stun, maybe they can get it, but Leo Sal's able to pull back. There's actually a TP coming in from MJZ as well, looking for the bottle refill, so you might want to be a little bit careful. Jamari, though, still pushing in. Pulse Nova active, gets a slow from the Lightning Storm, but the Nightmare's going to be there. Immediately removed, however, by El Misho, and now we're just doing some very funky dance in this middle lane between the towers, and it looks like El Misho is going to be the one punished for this one. Get Jamari out of the fight, but at a certain point, Hokori, you're in there with 2 heroes between towers at the 7-minute mark for a very substantial amount of time. Probably would have been in their best interest to back off, and now, since they had heroes rotate around for such a long duration, Frank sees a 1v1 top, and with the Primal Split, he wins that 1v1 pretty easily against the Phantom Dancer.
Oh, and Gardic.
Does he really?
Gotta be a little careful here. Okay, nice glimpse. Does get him out of dodge, but at the same time, I feel like the Doppelganger was just forced down a little bit too soon, and then Frank immediately pressed his advantage, maybe on the level up there, so the PL wasn't exactly ready for it, but those are the huge plays that give you this little bit of a lead that if you have a substantial lead on the lava side and you take away that map, I really think they can hold it for the rest of the game, but ooh, MJZ.
Yeah, he should be run down here eventually.
He's getting blocked, though.
Yeah, hold on, his creeps. Not doing the Leshrac any favors, but looks like he is still pushing his way forward. Pigpole is really going to get him in there. MJZ, can he look for the deny?
Ooh,
look
close.
for it, yes. Get it, no. As he does get taken down, but yeah, as you said, it certainly was close. Jamari, maybe a moment there was he was thinking, I'm going to blow a lot of mana, I better get this kill, and he does manage to do so, but I do want to point out, while Jamari is tracking down that kill, you look at Leo style, he is still the lowest net worth hero, net worth core rather, in the game, but the gap is beginning to close. He just took a rather sizable stack in the jungle with the help of the IO, so Leo Styles' recovery is coming along quite nicely, and now he's going to steal away some from Hokori's cores themselves, pushing across the river. Can he now get himself away, though? There's a couple of heroes moving in, but the other half from the middle lane is Jamari really does want that tower. Probably the better move for him to stick it out and get the objective.
Oh, and are they really trying to sit up here? He's got the DD rune still on the Storm, but
this would still be
okay,
so hard, but Jamari's not very tanky, so they're going to make the move. Is there any assistance here? El Misho's going to try, but he's not going to be able to get it. MJZ, though, does die. Okay. Able to get that second attack down, so you pick off somebody, but that's Leo Style who ends up getting that secondary kill, and you really don't want this Storm getting any extra assistance towards recovery. You take a look at him now, even he's going to have far more farming opportunities in the near future.
Yeah, it just feels like they did the play that they should have made. They get on that mid tower, but I think they need to keep the fight on the mid tower. I think going for kills like that is just a little bit too deep for them, and without the Tidehunter really getting involved, you can't afford to make misplays like that, because now where is your aggression coming out? Of course, 10 minutes every single time a cart spawns up, Hokori wants to get aggressive on these buildings, and if they're not able to get these buildings in a reasonable fashion, then that's where Lava kind of walk into this 18, 19-minute
Ooh.
timing where
Relocate
so
top.
farmed.
Gardic.
Ooh, nice pull.
Just barely able to get there in time as they pull him in with the Vortex. And now... Okay. Kim returns to the middle lane alone. Is there any cancel here? Jamari...
Wait.
What? Hold up. That kind of threw me for a loop for a second. Yeah, so he TP'd, then got called back. Oof. Very, very strange. But Leo Styles there to sort of provide the tether target, and Jamari doesn't actually push his way forward. So it looks weird, but it all works out in the end. Lava rotate top, they find a kill, they get Leo Style a little bit more gold once again. I feel like I'm saying that every few minutes, but every few seconds really, but it's true. Leo Styles' recovery really is coming along, and it is something that I think Hokori need to put a little bit more focus into, but if they focus on trying to run down the storm, you've got Kataro farming up in the jungle, and Frank really just has complete control of this top lane.
Yeah, it just becomes the issue where what happens next. And Frank, I mean, has a full spirit vessel. He is incredibly powerful. If he does start a fight here, and he's looking for the fight bottom, because there is a huge rotation coming in.
Show he didn't have his
Amisha's
ult.
dead.
No time lapse means he can't get away, but they do get the Static Storm into the Ravage. They'll take down Kataro. Good play there, but they still have to deal with Leo Style pulling in that Leshrac. They get the Fiend's Grip down as well. The Nightmare's onto Vitaly, so he has no way into this fight. And they will bring the Leshrac down. Frank now comes in. The Primal Split is available, but doesn't have the mana for it. Leo Style, oh my goodness, very nearly gets taken down as I think he zipped into the Anchor Smash, but he will live. Double kill for the Storm. Lava. Oh, very nicely done. You lose Kataro, but you're going to be able to get 3 or 4 kills in exchange. Start swinging that net worth more and more in their favor. 2k up at the 12-minute mark. Double the kill count of their opponents. And, well, I said earlier on that the recovery for the Storm was starting to pick up. He's surpassed the net worth of every single core on the Hokori side now. So recovery is over. Now he's just straight up ahead of you.
Yeah, it just feels like even though they did get the kill on Kataro, and unfortunately Amisho again, he just keeps on getting punished. Ever since he left bottom, of course, you were giving all of your levels over to Vitaly, but it just feels like he's presenting himself a little bit too much on the map, and just a much slower start than I think a lot of these Weavers have had. And this is all pre-Orchid, by the way, so these are kills that you really wouldn't assume him to be giving up. And unfortunately, with the way that Vitaly's lane went as well, you're great whenever you're trying to tank towers versus a lot of that magic damage, but knowing he doesn't have the Ravage, Kataro is fine to just hit into this tier 1 mid, and they didn't have to use the split either. So if this fight does actually start, they are gladly going to take it on the lava side.
Yeah, they would like the tower, but if the fight breaks out, they're prepared for it, and you can see that reflected here in the priorities. They take the tower first, but they've still got the Nightmare onto Vitaly. There's no Fiend Script for 20, but this Tide, he's tanky, but I don't know if he's that tanky. But Gardic tries to go in, looking for the Static Storm, but that means Leo Style can go directly onto that back line. Gardic will be taken down. Vitaly tries to run. Frank, though, wants to run him down in that Primal Split. But now you see Jamari, he's trying to make a move too, but he's got to be careful because Lava really do have the presuming firepower to go after this kill, as the Nightmare will be deployed. It's removed almost immediately, but now the Cyclone comes in. The Leshrac going to get thrown up in the air. The reinforcers are coming. Leo Style trying to hold the mana until that Leshrac hits the ground. But that zip is actually a little bit short, so Jamari's able to fall back, and now you do want to be a little careful on the lava side. They don't want to get caught out here with all these heroes TPing in, as the Glimpse does pull Leo Style, but yeah, that's probably the hardest hero for that Glimpse play to actually work on, as he just zips out. Kim then tethers to him, and Lava get themselves out of there. They take the Disruptor down. That's really the only kill that they pick up in that one, but they find the kill, they push back Hokori, and they didn't really have to give up anything on their own side.
And unfortunately, that was the timing where the PL had his defusal. That was his moment to actually have a pretty big impact in that fight, but I also think that that is why Lava get out so quickly, is they understand that if they do stick on this fight, then you're going to give a triple kill over to the PL, and that's exactly what we want to avoid, especially with this Deso coming up on the TA. Then you're going to be pretty happy. Unfortunately, Leo Style also has that Orchid coming. They're pinging the PL, but without that Orchid, I don't think they can actually kill him off, even though they're looking for another grip play here. But that's also where this bottom tower is still standing is just a big problem for Hokori. It just feels like they are, again, kind of behind the exchange right now, and they don't really have those easy comeback plays, at least maybe not until you have a Blink Dagger on the Tide. And Jamari with the Haste Rune tries to get aggressive onto Frank, but they don't have control over this area at all. All the vision placed by Lava makes it almost impossible for Hokori to find that entrance into the woods.
Yeah, they really don't have the means to just shove their way forward unless it's going to be the Tide Hunter, and Vitali was not in position. He's over on the other side of the map. He's at least getting an objective there, though, as the Tier 1 tower will fall in the bottom lane. So, making an impact here across the map. They're going to go for the smoke play now, though. 4-man smoke. Over on the other side of things, however, you look at Kitaro, he's got the Deso up and running, and he's actually looking to take a very sort of early Roche, at least for this lineup. It may very well work out. With the armor reduction from the Deso and the Meld, they are getting through it, but the plays coming in from Hokori. Frank, though, is going to be here to pop that smoke. MJZ acting as the lookout on the high ground as well, and actually he may just be the sacrifice in this instance, but if Kitaro can actually finish off Roshan, this should be worth it. But Leo Style, look at him waiting on the back line, looking to see what opportunity comes his way as they'll make the jump in now. No, they won't. He's going to fall back immediately, but MJZ now buys back, TP's in, and they're going to look for the fight. They got the Cyclone down into the Tide Hunter, delaying the Ravage, and now once Vitali hits the ground, he doesn't want to go for the Ravage because there isn't any actual target close enough. But this fight is still getting into such an awkward spot. Frank is going to run out of time on the Primal. El Misho, though, does get taken down, but now the Zip into the Ravage. They're going to lock him down. Defensive Nightmare coming through won't be enough, as Leo Style will still fall. And at this point, Lava, they've got to be so careful. MJZ falling back, but Leo Style buys back. He's into the fight. They're going to jump onto Jamari, quickly burning their way through the Leshrac. And they want even more. Vitali on the run, trying to get himself out, but it's actually G-Pride that they go in onto, and they cancel his TP. They're going to finish him off as Leo Style picks up the triple kill. And he's looking to look for the Ultra as Gardic falls. That's... Okay, what a buyback there from Leo. That is exactly what they needed. He unfortunately zips directly into the Ravage the first time, but he realizes the only reason I died was because I made that mistake. He buys back, he marches in, and now not only do they win the fight, but they can go back and finish that Roche that they were trying before that sort of led to this whole fight breaking out in the first place.
Yeah, and man, Omisho, he scans it out. He might even think about going a little bit closer, but unfortunately, it's just a little bit too low. But man, what a good decision from Leo Style there. If he doesn't buy back, at least 2 of those heroes escape, and then suddenly that looks a whole lot worse for Lava. Of course, they would probably still get the Roche afterwards, but it's that kind of decision-making that keeps Leo Style as being the best. But it's really unfortunate that that Ravage, I think, clipped him off. Of course, Vitali was just looking for the burst on the Brewmaster, I think, after the split, just trying to take him out as fast as he could, but that's also where they definitely overstay their welcome. And again, that's a fight that breaks out over by the Roche pit, because of course they're doing the Roche on the Lava side, but they're not really formulating on these objectives. I like that they're smoking up with Jamari, having his Yules completed, so he will be able to lead into at least one of these targets, but unfortunately, that's where I still feel like Hokori are getting dragged to sides of the map that they don't really want to play in, and it's these kind of slow plays coming in from them that result in Kitaro just getting that top tower for free, and that's where the whiffs really start to add up because you start running out of space. And during this entire time, it's not like Jamari was farming at all, so it feels like the cores are starting to fall behind just a little bit. Even though they are peaking up net worth wise, it just feels like they're not being as effective as they could be. And look at Jamari.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
That's the matchup. No armor.
Oh, trap. Does spot him out. Is there going to be a zip in? No, they're not going to go for it. Jamari is able to TP himself away. But yeah, the second he runs into that TA, you have to leave. Because if you stuck around for another second, that gets Kitaro the time he needs for the 1 or 2 right clicks to finish that kill.
No
as
way.
Oh no, G-Pride. Okay. Good dodge. Good TP from El Misho as well. If it turned into a fight, I don't think he would have saved anyone, but just the threat that there were other heroes coming in is enough to push Leo Style away. So they're able to dodge a bullet on the side of Hokori, but this is really all just sort of delaying things out, and since the Phantom Lancer was the one who was forced to pull back there, he's knocked out of his firing rhythm. As you mentioned earlier, Jamari isn't really finding a whole lot for himself either, so all of this is just delay after delay after delay, and Lava, well, they keep on building up strength. Kitaro, though, glimpsed in. Can they save him? They need some sort of nightmare play, but they just don't have it, so that is going to be the first life taken down, but Frank was able to get off the split first, so they'll push it onto Jamari, looking for the quick kill onto him. Haven't finished it off just yet, though, and there we go. Leo Style able to get in there, finish the kill. Now they're going to get onto Vitali in that middle lane proper, as they'll pick him off as well. And they've got the Nightmare onto Omisho. They'll hit him up with a silence, even the stun coming out from Frank before that primal split ends, so they do find the extra kill. And the remaining heroes on Hokori, once again, no choice but to retreat.
And it's a really good glimpse from the Disruptor. I think Gardic had the right idea there. They even get the Aegis really before they had to expend all too much, but unfortunately, it just takes too long. Their Aegis respawn just doesn't work out for them, and that Ravage really clipping onto no one there. He only hit up the Brewlings, unfortunately. Just wasn't enough. And then as soon as they use that Ravage, Lava really don't need to be afraid of anything. They just get to run in and do whatever they want, as well as that Purge. Jamari just doesn't have that defensive tool that is actually effective versus the Brewmaster, and that's where... Oh, bottom. Yeah.
Frank ran himself into a corner, but he's got the reinforcements. Kim and Leo Style are into the fight. They don't really do much to actually save Frank, though, and now they may have to back out because the IO, he's dropping and he's dead before the relocate would have pulled him back. Now the glimpse onto Leo. They burn through the mana, and they take him down as well. That is perfect, and really, that opportunity should not have even come up. Frank just wanders into a spot where he knows he can't get down from the high ground, and then the relocate in kind of... a little bit of sort of save your friend syndrome. Uh-oh. Do they get up there? MJZ is going to try to throw the Nightmare down onto Jamari. There's the glimpse. Yeah, Kataro pulled back in. Maybe they can get a kill onto El Misho. No, he's going to be able to get himself out with the Shikuchi, so Kataro will fall, and now MJZ is killed before he can finish off the TP, and it's a full 5-man wipe. It's delayed by a little while, and the two sides happen on opposite ends of the map, but Hokori, clean house, 5 kills, no casualties.
It feels really weird what Lava just did. They went to an area of the map that they had really no business being in. They didn't have the Brewmaster split for a few seconds there, even though, of course, Frank does have that Ags. It just feels like they were trying to do too much because, of course, you just got cleaned up. You just got your entire... lineup lost in the matter of a minute, and all of those kills more or less went over to the PL and the Lesh. It just feels like they were kind of out of their depth. That was not even a fight. I kind of hesitate to call it, but Vitali didn't even need to use Ravage. They just completely got picked off by this Disruptor, and of course, when your opponents are running away from you, the Disruptor is great, but until this point, it was Lava starting all of these engagements. Just feels like they kind of used their resources without thinking and then got hard punished, because now Vitali, I mean, he's got a blink. He's going to be able to find a lot of these targets now, and if they can burst anyone in this Ravage, then that's the perfect timeline for Hokori, not to mention that because of all that gold got pumped into that Phantom Lancer, he has a heart in only about 1,500. So then this fight gets even more difficult once you start to run out of that damage coming from everyone aside from that TA.
That was what we were talking about coming out of the draft as well, right? The PL hitting that critical mass where he is going to be so insanely tanky, and Lava's damage output directly onto him is not going to be fantastic. You can't really allow yourself to let the fight drag on, because then his incredible regen starts to heal him up, and I'm not sure they'll have the damage to just sort of burst through the PL in the middle of that fight, at least not without Hokori's other heroes trying to get in there to defend him. So we are approaching a bit of a danger point for Lava. I say approaching, we're actually kind of already there, because we saw in the graphs just a few moments ago, net worth, experience, and even the win probability are dangerously close to evening out after that last exchange. So if you're Lava, you need to get yourself back on top, but they need to maintain a certain degree of sort of cohesion and discipline. I think that's really what doomed them in that last fight. Heroes were just sort of making strange decisions and not really working with the rest of the lineup, as Leo Style, long zip in, going to try to take Gardic out of the fight right away. And I believe, yeah, they do manage to get the kill. So Gardic taken down without the Static Storm and the Glimpse plays. Hokori really don't want that engagement, and Kataro was able to go after the tier 2 tower mid and does bring that down.
Yep, and it's where I think Lava are really going to be looking towards this next Aegis before they could even think about going towards the high ground, but that's where if Hokori can play this split game without getting caught out all too much, Leo Style can only kill so many people with his mana pool. He's gone for the non-greedy Storm build. It's not like he has a Bloodstone or a Yashikaya. He has to kind of wait around for his mana to regen up, and of course the IO will give him a little bit more to play with, but there's still a finite resource in the Storm Spirit. If Hokori can get out and across the map, catching them is still a little bit difficult. I think El Misho did get caught, though.
Yeah. May not have the mana pool to kill everybody, but can sure as hell get onto a low health Weaver. So Leo Style finds the kill. Kim TP's in to start topping him off mana-wise, and they will look to address this split push down bot. However, at the same time, you see Hokori grouping up in the middle lane. Not really sure if this is a fight or if it's more just clear out the creep wave and prevent any sort of chip damage onto our tier 3, but either way, with all their heroes focused mid, the push down bottom is more than just dealing with the split. Leo Style might actually be able to get these creeps up to the tier 1 and dish out a little bit of damage there. It's just unfortunate that it's Leo Style here instead of Kataro, because if it's Kataro, this tower's gone.
No, it is a little bit of a small push in, but that's also where you've got heroes placed in pretty specific spots, like Kataro in the mid lane, keeping that front wave all the way pushed in, or MJZ looking to break smokes, and as soon as they catch wind of that Weaver, yeah, they know. Oh, Vitali,
Okay.
he couldn't find Frank in time.
Now the jump in, they're going to look to take the Weaver out. That's a very nice static storm down, so Leo Style had to pop the BKB, but he does activate it. Now he's going to push a little bit further forward, but this is the problem. That Phantom Lancer, he's so tanky now with the heart. He is going to try and stand his ground. And if you're Lava, yeah, how much further do you want to take this? They're running out of time there on the primer, or at least the first one, but now Kataro, well, Kataro's getting hit up. Where's the support? They're slowly but surely going to come in, and now Frank will pop that second ult. They're going to look to push their way forward, but there's going to be the Ravage being deployed. They've caught out Leo Style, but Vitali's the only one hitting him. He's the only one who has any significant route in, so Leo Style is going to be able to absorb the damage, but Kim is now in trouble as well. They're going to blow up that IO. This fight is getting so complicated, but they are in onto the supports. They took the IO down first. They'll get MJZ as well. And now Frank, running out of time on the second ult, is really just sort of left to himself here to try and somehow get away, but there's really no getting out there. So Lava, that is such a weird fight. They go in, they've got the Nightmare, they've got the lockdown, they get Frank with 2 primal splits in there. That Ravage comes out so late, but there just isn't enough damage for them to break through anyone other than the Weaver. And this is exactly that sort of tipping point that we were talking about. If you can't take this Phantom Lancer down anymore, how do you approach any of these engagements?
And that was with Vitali really unable to find that perfect Ravage moment, but it still ended up being enough. You stopped Leo Style, and him not having the most mana there, he used so much to try and get that backline started, and unfortunately they weren't able to really stick on any of their targets during their BKBs. Having both of their cores use their BKBs separately is just a pretty awful situation, because suddenly you're staggered and who can actually do damage, and I think but oh,
Okay.
Kataro, he's got BKB, but
One. MJZ buying back, looking to TP in, but while he TPs, Kataro needs help. Good play from Kim, though, coming in, getting the heals down. Kataro's trying to fight back, but the BKB starting to run out of time. They need to be careful now, because they still haven't dealt with the PL, who immediately jumps in onto that Bane, taking him down a second time, and this fight really getting rough for the side of Lava. They need to back away, as Leo Style is going to zip himself out. They are rapidly losing ground, and they'll simply have to surrender this high ground area.
yeah, and they're still working to kill this Obs, and actually, okay, there you go. What an Earth. Oh, Jamari's so good with that Earth.
Splitter stun connects. Kim gets taken down, and how much further do you want to go? If you're Hokori, you can push for the tier 2 tower. Do you try for the high ground beyond that, or do you even go for the tier 2 at all? Because they scout out that Roche has respawned. That is a far more valuable pickup in the short term. So they are going to go in for it. Aegis as well as the Shard both available, and Lava cannot even think about really bringing heroes over here to contest right now.
No, and it just feels like there's absolutely no way for this PL to die. It feels like their damage is just way too split. We don't have items like the Daedalus on the TA. We don't have items like a Shiva's Guard or really any of that anti-PL tech, and unfortunately, it just means that this is going to continue to be a problem for them. They don't even give the Aegis to the PL because Jamari is the one who's going to have even a possibility of dying, but he's also going to be right on top of those towers. It just feels like maybe Lava have lost their moment to win this game easily, and they're going to have to look for those secondary channels where we have to look for those later on timings, unfortunately, that our heroes do have. We've got some very strong late game heroes, but really only once we get there, and that's where Hokori have just pretty much gotten this 5-man ball together where it's very difficult for them to actually win this game now, and Kataro, he has to run away. But Kim, he's the real target here, and unfortunately glimpse back. Again, Gardic, every single time with the glimpse.
Kim's not able to time that out, and yeah, as you say, Gardic is doing so well here, sort of similar fashion to what we saw from the supports the last time around in the previous series, just sort of making those plays over and over again. He has been so incredibly important in terms of setting this up. Hasn't even taken a single kill for himself. That is the sort of ultimate in support play. No stolen kills, racking up assists. So as long as he can continue to make those plays, and even in situations where he has given his life, most notably that fight in the West Side Jungle just a few minutes ago, he dies in exchange for something that allows Hokori to just keep the pressure going. He is never dying just because he's out of position or he's caught.
No, definitely not, and that's where this push is just brutal. They can try for the split push. They can try to push in these side lanes, but unfortunately, there is this ball coming at you in the bottom lane, and you are really struggling to actually have that damage, and I just don't think they were able to do enough with that first Aegis. I feel like they really are losing control of this game, and there's your glyph. So now, this Arcane Rune Leshrac with Diabolic Edict is going to feel even worse, and glimpse. Okay, brings them actually further back into the fountain, but look at
They got MJZ. They get the vision on the Bane just sitting there in the tree line pretty casually, but he's not dead yet. Gonna self-nightmare, that keeps him alive, and, well, the push forward from Jamari was a little bit too far, so they get through the first life, but now here comes G-Pride, looking to push in, hoping to cover his teammate's retreat. Leostyle doesn't want to let him go, but he's got half HP and no mana. He has to fall back. Meanwhile, you see Frank trying to get on the back line with that first Primal Split. Actually, that was not the first. That was the only Primal Split. He doesn't have another one. So now Frank, there's really nothing for him to do. He's going to try to get healed up, and now Vitaly sees his moment. Blinking in. Ravage dropped onto 3. Kataro getting pushed back towards the fountain. Can they keep him safe? No, they can't. Kataro will fall. Leostyle trying to make something happen here as well, but with no buyback on that TA, he's not going to get any significant backup until Frank has that Primal again. And by the time that happens, it really feels like Hokori have gotten everything they want, except maybe the racks here. That backdoor protection kicks back in. It is the downside of diving for that play, as they weren't able to keep the pressure on. So if you're Lava, honestly, that makes this not nearly as bad as it should have been. It's pretty unfortunate to lose the tower and a couple of your heroes' lives, but without any threat to then push onto the racks, they could potentially reset. Well, Leostyle, that is very risky. Vitaly now comes in. They're going to look to take down Kim first, so the backup gets taken away. There is a buyback available on the IO. And now MJZ is going to get targeted up. Nice play there with the Glimmer. Should get him back into the base, but well, it just feels like at this point there's nothing Leostyle can do. He tries to zip forward. Maybe he can get some of the illusions, but he can't actually get any pressure onto the heroes themselves.
No, it really feels like, what do you do now? You need to find some crazy fight where I think, honestly, you need to put the PL up into the air, because there is no way for your Bane and Io to actually exist anywhere for these tower defenses. And unfortunately for Hokori, I suppose, they did lose their creep wave. They lost track of the game a little bit there by going for those big kills underneath the tier 4s, but at the same time, it's not like the position for Lava really got any better. And Frank, I mean, he's going to have another ulti in about, what, a minute here, but then you're going to have 2. Unfortunately, even 1 just doesn't feel like it's doing anything anymore. And that was with him berating Vitaly for the entire team fight. Vitaly had to wait so long to find his Ravage, and okay, Elmisho, he's the weak one. He's the one you can actually make a play on, but still got to be a little bit careful here, because Hokori could turn on you incredibly quickly. I think without the Ravage for 30, maybe they will decide to go back, but
they can get the Fiend Script down onto the PL, maybe. But they need to pick the right one, and MJZ, he doesn't get to pick anything. He is just going to have to Nightmare himself defensively. He's dead. No buyback on that Bane. And now without that lockdown, this fight really just can't happen. They have to fall back on Lava, as Frank is going to have to use a Primal Split defensively. And what's going on here? Kim looking for the TP home, and Elmisho doesn't have any way to cancel it. So you do pull back with everyone other than the Bane, and it is going to be a bit of a reset for them. They've got another Primal Split in just a few moments here, but this just feels so rough for Lava. It feels like they're just scrambling, not even having necessarily a concrete goal or win condition in mind. They're just trying to sort of slow things down as much as possible and see what presents itself to them later. But the longer this game goes on, at least right now, in the next maybe 5 to 10, I don't think they're getting much closer to dealing with this PL.
Definitely not. And in all honesty, they are slowing down just a little bit. This Mindbreaker is really nice for the PL that actually picked it up. Might force an earlier BKB out from one of the cores he tries to pick off in the beginning of these fights. But it feels like Hokori are being a little bit messy in their execution here. It doesn't feel like they're necessarily getting those concise pushes. They're really chasing their opponents around the map, and they see real PL.
Yep, they're going to make the jump in. Gardico responding with the Static Storm, but they're still looking for the fight, trying to get onto that PL. G-Pride actually trying for now to fight, but he has reinforcements coming, but there's going to be the Fiend's Grip. They also got it onto the real one, but the Fiend's Grip is quickly canceled, and now this is going to fall apart. MJZ quickly taken down. Frank trying to run away, but oh, okay, they didn't actually manage to get that fire one down. If they could have killed that off, maybe they can keep Frank in their sights, but as it stands, that's going to be a retreat from Lava. They only lose the Bane, but they were looking to be the team on the offensive with that play, and again, they can't kill the PL. He doesn't even have any sort of BKB or anything along those lines. He's just too tanky for them to get through.
And look at him now. He's just on your racks, and they simply don't have enough damage here. Leo needs to look for possibly cutting the creep wave, but unfortunately, even then, just doesn't seem like an option. Kataro's losing the fight versus a PL Shard illusion right now. That's the kind of grim circumstance we're in. And this bottom racks, it's just so easy for them to quickly move over. Full Bloodstone as well on the Lesh, so it's not like he's ever going to run out of mana, something they could play around with that first defense. And, okay, Orchid, but he really does not care right now. This is all with Vitali holding the Ravage, by the way, so we're going to see some initiation from Lava at this final racks, but I just don't know who they find. It feels like all the cores are just unkillable now on the Hokori side.
And the worst part about that was that MJZ did try for the Fiend's Grip in that previous fight, so now it's not available for this defense. If Vitali pops the Ravage, he can Static Storm down. They're going to catch Kataro out, trying to finish him off here. BKB not going to be able to be activated as Kataro will fall. The Bane buys back, but they need the TA back into the fight as well. And it really just doesn't seem like they have it. Kim is able to get himself out there with the tether, but he's still getting run down. Not going to make it back to the fountain. He will fall. Buyback out from him now, as this is just turning into full-on desperation mode. But Lava, that's everything they've got. That's every single buyback that they had available at the time. So if they can't hold now, it might just be the game as Hokori, they sense it. They're going to push their way forward. You couldn't stop us bot. You couldn't stop us mid. What makes you think you can stop us top? And maybe Lava can't. Maybe they don't even try. They're going to have to do something at this point. Otherwise, it's just going to be the straight-up end of the game. But their options are so incredibly limited. As MJZ, he's now actually been caught in the tree line. Going to try to get away. Should be falling as Leo Style zips in. But there's just no play to make. And yeah, they're going to recognize that fact. The GG will be called. And Hokori, well, a very impressive win for them here. And a win that they really did need to continue pushing their way up the group stage standings. And they just straight up outplay Lava. Their strategy was one that they knew that they could rely on long term.
Really, it was just so easy for them. After a certain point, it felt like there was really no way for them to get back into this game. I wonder what win probability says. Yeah, 22 minutes into the game, it doesn't even look close for Hokori. It felt like there really was no kind of end in sight for the pickoffs that Leo Style and Frank were finding, but it comes back to that one play where they traverse over to that dire triangle, they lose 5 heroes, and then suddenly that PL is not looking very killable once he picks up the heart, and then unfortunately they had that same situation play out at that mid-tier 2 tower where suddenly Vitali gets messed with by that Brewmaster. The Brew Split ends. The Brew Split begins again because he has the Ags, but he still finds a Ravage onto Kataro, and I think that's where you got last pick peeled by Hokori. You know, get it out of your brain, but they also just didn't do enough with that first Aegis. I think it was another kind of similar situation where it felt almost a little bit too sloppy from Lava, where they weren't able to get enough done. They weren't able to get some of that real damage onto the high ground. It felt like they were dragging their feet a little bit in that regard, and they definitely lost their footing. It felt like Hokori just kind of pulled the rug out from underneath them, and really kind of credit to Gardic, because every single time it felt like Lava were on the retreat, he's there with the glimpse every single time to get those guaranteed kills, and it got to the point where it was almost nonsensical for Lava to be even in their neck of the woods. In addition to that, I think that trying out the Brewmaster was pretty interesting, and it is a very good hero versus that Tidehunter, of course, is the big reason why they decided to pick it up. But you look at the damage, and you look at the jump coming from both the TA and the Storm, and that's instant. But you don't have a stun. You have no stuns on your team. Everything is about you getting on top of your team with that Brew Split, and then kind of the damage that follows it. It just felt like they didn't have anyone to just simply blink, go in, stun, get your ability landed. And I think it was that kind of ease of execution that they really were lacking, because before then, everything was on Leo Style, and as soon as Leo Style stopped performing, it just fell apart.
Yeah, I mean, he got close to kinda sorta having that with that Orchid play, but Orchid, I mean, is a silence. It's not a stun, right? And we saw towards the back end of that match, the only kill they could reasonably go for that they knew that they could pick up was just trying to pick off El Misho. And at that point, the position 4 Weaver really doesn't care if he dies or not. It's not like El Misho had built up an Ag, so you sort of needed him for some sort of time-lapse play. So Lava really only had one major form of initiation onto one target, neither of which really ended up mattering. So yeah, they just take their foot off the gas at that pivotal moment. As you said, that weird fight where they lose Frank, they relocate in, they lose everybody, then the other 2 members die over on the other side near the pit. all it takes is that one little maneuver. You lose that momentum, and you just can't flip the switch, turn it back on, and reestablish control. So Hokori bide their time. They were incredibly patient and incredibly disciplined, and you see the results for them. They get a much-needed victory here, and now the question is, after taking that first game and exposing maybe a bit of a weakness for Lava in terms of their execution, can Hokori do it again? Because if they could take the 2-0 sweep here, then this hypothetical, theoretical push into the top 4 that we're talking about is no longer hypothetical. They're just going to be directly in there fighting with Infamous maybe for that 4th spot. So quite a lot at stake for Hokori, but if they play like they did here in Game 1, it seems like they're going to have a pretty solid shot at it.
Yeah, they've got to be really careful. And of course, Lava do have pick for the second game, so there's not going to be that same shenanigans, but they still got to be really careful. Otherwise, they're going to give, again, another game over to Hokori, and they're your regional rival, so you want to kind of win here, but again, they got to play just a little bit tighter.
Yeah, so we'll see, right? We've seen plenty from this Lava team, both as Lava and back as Thunder Predator, so they should be able to get things back under control, but they have to prove it. Game number 2 is going to be coming up. It'll be our final match of the night, so we will be preparing for that one as we step away here, but when we come back, game number 2 between Lava, BestPC, and Hokori.